Welcome to the Dental School Guide podcast, your ultimate destination for all things dentistry. I'm Dr. Tanner Townsend, your guide through the complex world of dental education. Join us as we uncover the secrets of acing dental school admissions, navigating residency programs, and exploring career opportunities. Please share and enjoy. Real quick, just wanted to make all you pre-dental students out there aware of a resource. If you've ever been worried about getting into dental school or are wanting to get into that school of your dreams, then you definitely want to check out a program called Dental School Guide. In the program, we walk you through how to save money, time, and heartache when applying to dental school. There's so much fluff out there when it comes to resources for getting into school, and we are streamlining all of that. With our comprehensive digital course, expert mentorship, and personalized application review services, you'll have everything you need to stand out to admission committees. Take advantage of this amazing resource that will help you increase your chances of getting into dental school. You'll want to check out dentalschoolguide.com. Check it out. Welcome back to the Dental School Guide podcast. My name is Dr. Tanner Townsend. I'm your host, and today we have Razel with us. She is a D2 at AT Still in Arizona. So Razel, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Dr. Townsend. It's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, we are super excited to have you on today. So Razel's going to give us a whole bunch of background on AT Still, background about herself, and then she's going to give us some advice at the end of today's podcast about getting into dental school and kind of what to expect once you're there, especially at AT Still. So Razel, first off, let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell us about your background and how you ended up at AT Still.
Yeah, so I'm from Los Angeles, California. I was born and raised there. I went to college there too. And I decided to apply to AT Still University ASDO because I really loved my interview there and um, I just really like the mission and values of the school. They really focus on like community service and everything, so that's something that I really appreciate. And yeah, just a little bit about my background. I attended Azusa Pacific University in Azusa, California. I studied biology, and I always tell people that my dream is to be a singing dentist. So I just want to be a dentist by day and a singer at night. And I decided to start an Instagram account and just document my whole dental school journey about how I got here. And I used to be just super insecure as a pre-dental student about grades and everything. So just I really want my account to be just an inspiring place where people can like follow their dreams. So yeah, I'm just super excited to be here, and I'm currently a D2 dental student, as you said, and we're actually about to start our D3 year soon. So super excited.
Woohoo! You're almost in the clinic. There you go. Well, that is really cool. So go follow Razel on Instagram and give her a follow and kind of watch her documented journey as she goes through dental school. So, a couple of things. I did not know you were a singer. So, did you do a lot of singing growing up?
Yeah, I did. So I grew up in like a Filipino household. My parents are from the Philippines, and karaoke is such a big thing in our culture. My dad would always just have me sing like karaoke with him when I was a young kid. So he enrolled me in vocal lessons. Then I got to build on that skill. I got to do some singing competitions, and I sang the national anthem at the Lakers game in 2018. And then
Whoa!
I at the Suns versus Kings game in February, the national anthem. So I got to have some classmates support me. So yeah, I just do it on the side, and I would love to do it part-time too.
Well, dang, it does sound like you have a career, a future music career along with dentistry. That's awesome.
Thank
You know,
you.
I tried to sing. I enjoy singing, but I'm awful. I've had a couple assistants. It was really funny in my residency. We had this really bold assistant, and she's like, "Hey, Dr. Townsend, who sings this song? Not you." And so it was just really funny. So that is awesome. I totally think that you should sing to your patients once you get in the clinic and you get going. I think they appreciate it. They don't always. They think I'm funny when I sing because I sound so bad, but that is awesome because you can actually sing good. That is cool. Well, Razel, tell us a little bit about AT Still. So first, let's take a broad overview to start. Tell us where the school is and kind of some of the mission and the culture that you have at AT Still.
Yeah, so AT Still University, ASDO, so it stands for Arizona School of Dentistry and Oral Health. We're located in Mesa, Arizona, which is a suburb, and it's a pretty big suburb. I didn't realize how big Mesa is, but we are a professional graduate institution. So our school consists of like a medical school, PA, OT, um, just a bunch of different postgraduate programs. So on one campus, we have the dental school, and the other campus, we have like all the other different programs. So at our school, we emphasize public health a lot. We have the option of doing a master's program for public health, and every student is required to take public health courses where we get a public health certificate at the end when we graduate. Something unique about our school is that we have a pass or fail curriculum. So it's basically you need a 75% or higher on your didactic courses that are non-clinical, and then the clinical courses, you need a 70% or higher. And I really love that because it just emphasizes a very like collaborative, supportive atmosphere, and it doesn't feel very competitive. And another thing that stands out about ASDO is that we have external rotations during our D4 year, which is basically we go to different community health centers and just areas where there's like underserved rural populations. And we get to do that during our fourth year of dental school. And we go on 4 to 5 different rotations during that year. So, yeah, our school is a 4 year program. We basically start D1 year, basically didactics or basic sciences. We get into the sim clinic very early on, like within the first 2 months of starting dental school. And we start with operative dentistry, which is basically like fillings and learning how to drill a tooth. We end D1 year with fixed pros, so like crowns and bridges and everything. And we actually start seeing patients during our D2 year, which is very
Whoa.
early compared to a lot of schools. So that's something that's really cool. So I got to see my first patient in August of D2 year. And now
Wow.
we're transitioning full time in clinic in May, so next month, which is so exciting, and I'll be in clinic full time. And then D3 year, we're in clinic full time, preparing for boards, and D4, we're basically on external rotations, as well as coming back to ASDO, basically back and forth. So 4 to 6 weeks in one place, and then 4 to 6 weeks back at ASDO. So we just keep switching. So yeah, that's like the whole basis of our curriculum. And like I was saying earlier, ASDA really emphasizes community service, just serving underserved populations, which is awesome, and focusing on the whole person, not just the teeth, but how our whole like oral cavity is connected to every single system in the body. So, yeah.
That is really cool. Okay, you unpacked a lot there. So we're gonna kind of dive into some of those little niches that you just talked about because we talked about, you know, pass fail, those extra external rotations, and all the good stuff in sim lab in between. So because of the um, the school is a pass fail school, it's really kind of nice, like you said, because it takes the pressure off and it enforces more collaboration. Um, so for all classes, it's that way. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, that is correct for pass fail, and then actually our public health courses, we actually do get, letter grades for that one, but that is all, like, asynchronous on, just all online, so yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. And so I did not know that you guys jumped into clinic during your second year. That is awesome. So you were able to get into your clinic and see your first patients in August of this previous year for you since you're a D2. What have you been able to do so far as a D2 in clinic?
Yeah, so I started off with a prophy, so just a basic
Yep.
cleaning. Then we made our way to doing like perio maintenance, perio maintenances, SRPs. We've learned how to do injections on each other, so we're allowed to do injections on the patients. And then also, I've done my first restoration not too long ago as well.
Nice.
It was a 21 DO, which was so exciting. I was so scared, but we did it.
Congratulations. That is how long did it take you? I remember my first restoration took like 3 hours and it's like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Like,
it took me, like, 3 hours. I was,
yeah.
like, one of the last people left, so I was like, "Wow, where did everyone go? It's just me."
Yeah.
But yeah, and some of my classmates actually got to do crown preps, which is crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, so they're really pushing us to do a bunch of things.
Well, that is awesome. So that is kind of one of the unique features of AT Still, that they really try to get you into the clinic very early, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Um, I didn't know that they were even letting D2s do some crown preps, and so that might not be everyone, but that is very unique and cool.
Yeah.
So, in terms of in terms of getting into the clinic more often, so how often as a D2 are you in the clinic? And then you said as a D3, you're in the clinic full time.
Mhm.
What does full time look like? Is that every single day of the week? Is it 2 to 3 days a week?
Yeah, so full-time is 5 days a week. So
Nice.
we will be 5 days a week in clinic starting the first week of May, so in a couple weeks. And currently, we're in the clinic twice a week. So right now, we're pretty much, if we don't have a patient, we're assisting either a D3 or D4 or one of our classmates. So we're always staying busy in the clinic if we don't have a patient. But yeah, full time.
That is awesome. So once you go full time in the clinic, is it you have a patient every single day that's your patient, or how does that work?
Yeah, so at ASDO, we do have our own patient list, and we have different, basically different units in our clinic. They're broken up into CCUs, which means comprehensive care units. There's 4 different CCUs at our school, so each student is placed into one. So I'm like in CCU 4, and we basically have a family of 2 to 4 people in it, and basically mentors that we have. So our mentors would pass on their patients to us. And it's really nice because for my first restoration, my mentor passed down her patient and she got to assist me for that procedure. So it was nice to have that support and just to have someone guiding me through that. We don't have to find our own patients, which is a really great thing at our school.
That's
They
a
find
really
them for
important
us.
thing.
Yeah, so I love that so much. Um, but yeah, so basically right now I have like a patient list of like 15 so far, but since the D4s are starting to graduate, we're gonna be getting like a ton more this month. So I've heard people have like 65 patients on their list, and that's how busy it could get for them. But yeah,
Well, that's excellent.
yeah.
So once you get in a clinic, for those of you that don't know, there's typical clinical requirements that you need in order to graduate. And every single school is different in the what they require in terms of the number of crowns, the number of extractions, number of root canals, and so on. So at AT Still, what are some of the requirements, just on some of the basic ones? We could get into the real nitty gritty here and go into a lot of things, but in terms of how many crowns do you need to do, how many root canals, and how many denture cases do you need to do? Do you by chance know those numbers?
I don't really know all those numbers. I do know we need at least 1 denture case because I did hear, like, it's pretty hard to find those denture patients, so at least 1 to graduate, and it has to be upper and lower denture. For
Hmm.
crowns, I couldn't tell you the number, but I know we need a lot. Like, extractions, I heard we need more than, like, I don't know, like 10. I'm not too sure.
Okay, that's totally okay. Not a worry in the world. So that is great. So it sounds like the school is a very well rounded school in terms of your clinical and getting you into the clinic very early, which is excellent. Now, you had mentioned during your fourth year, you go on externships where you're typically there for 4 to 6 weeks at an external site, typically in a rural community or something of that nature, and then you're back at the school for 4 to 6 weeks. Tell
Mhm.
us about some of the locations that you could potentially go during those external rotations, and does the school like provide housing for those? Do they give you a stipend and so on?
Yeah, so our school does give us a stipend. I believe it's $2,000, which is not a lot for all those rotations.
Yeah.
Um, and depending on the rotation, some offer housing, some offer a car, and some offer transportation, like your stipend to get there as well, and they'll pay you during that rotation. And others don't offer anything at all. So it really
Oh,
just depends. Some of the really popular sites are Seattle. Yeah, we were talking about earlier, Montana is really popular, Kansas, Alaska. There's a lot in Arizona, so you can do local rotations as well, especially for people who have families. That's really important to just stay, like, where their families are so they don't have to travel too far. We have New Mexico, Chicago, Maine. Yeah, California, just honestly everywhere. They're yeah, almost everywhere, I think.
Wow,
And
that is
also, if
crazy.
yeah, if you want to basically work at a community health center that you find, you can also do that, you just have to get it approved by the school, so if they
Oh,
don't have one already set up, you can do that as well.
so you can set up your own residency or like own rotation then. That's really cool. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you said you get to do as a D4, you get to do 4 or 5 of those rotations?
Yeah, so, 4 rotations are mandatory, and a 5th one is a summer one, so that's optional. So the D4s have the option of saying yes or no to that.
So potentially up to 5 months out of the clinic, out of like AT still during your 4th year.
Yes.
Wow, that is excellent. So that's a really important factor as you're picking schools of knowing that you're going to have the chance to kind of take the training wheels off and go and practice with a little less oversight. That way you can really enhance your speed and be ready for private practice. So that's a really cool thing that they do, letting you go for like 5 months.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the school a little bit. Let's talk about like the parking situation, for example. Every school is so different with the parking situation. Some schools say, hey, it's going to be $200 a semester to park. Other schools do it free. How does AT still do that?
Yes, this is such a great question because parking at our school is free, and there's so much parking.
That
So
is huge.
yeah, and it's not too far. It's like you don't have to walk, like, miles to get to campus, and also, it's just because Arizona is so hot during the summer, so no one would want that. But, yeah, you can park right by the door, and there's parking, so, yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, that's always one of those things where you don't really realize until you're there at the school and you're like, wait, there's like parking that I have to pay for, or like I have to walk a mile to school. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
So,
crazy. This was the first time I went to a school that didn't require, like, paying for parking like my college did and everywhere else, so I was really shocked. But
yeah, that's definitely a nice perk for sure.
yeah.
Now, some of those other perks that might be included in a school that like people don't often talk about is like a gym. Now, sometimes schools will have like a gym either on their campus or they'll kind of share a sister gym with like the medical school in AT Still's case. Is there a local gym that the school sponsors or something like that that's nice and close by that students have access to?
Yeah, there is a local gym. It's on, right across our campus, and we share it with medical students and OT students, and it's the YMCA gym, so that's there. It's free for all the students, which is really nice, and they offer a bunch of different classes if you wanna go there. We've had a couple dodgeball tournaments there, and we have one
Nice.
coming up, actually, so we'll randomly have events there. During Halloween, we had this, like, trunk or treat, so we got to decorate our car trunks, and a bunch of kids came, and whoever had, like, the best decorated car won, so, yeah, we do a lot of events with YMCA, which is really awesome, and it's right by school too.
Well, that's really cool because that kind of feeds into their mission of getting out in the community and being involved. So that's
Yeah,
super nice that they've sponsored that program for you guys to be able to go and use the facilities. So
yeah.
make sure you go kick some butt in dodgeball when it comes up again. That'll be
Oh
way
gosh,
fun.
I'm terrible. I always get out the first round.
Oh no.
It's not good.
Yeah. Do you guys do like classes against each other? Or is it just your class that goes and plays dodgeball?
Different classes, so we'll
So it'll
have
be like D1s against D2s or something
yeah.
like that?
Scary. It's so scary. I'm not like,
Wow.
when I throw it, it's not the best throw. Someone will always catch it, so I'm always out, but
Oh.
yeah.
That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
tell us some more unique features about the school in general. Is there anything that you really feel that helps AT still stand out as a school compared to other dental schools that you've heard of?
Yeah, so actually recently we took a special care dentistry class, and it was a class that focused on people who have disabilities, people who have or who use wheelchairs, people with autism, and we just basically had like a whole day where we had different simulations that simulated like different aging exercises. So, like, we had these simulation gloves that simulated Parkinson's, like, it's a tremor simulator, so we got to
Whoa.
experience, like, what a tremor felt like in our hands, and we got to draw. I got to pour water in a cup, and it was really hard because my hands kept shaking and everything. We also wore these simulation suits called GERT suits, which is basically a suit that simulated, how it feels when you're older, so it's, like, a lot heavier, like, we had weights on our bodies, like, with the suit, and it just simulated, like, how, people who are getting old, like, feel, like, when they're, like, walking up the stairs and how hard it is to see. We had these, like, special goggles. We also learned how to use a wheelchair and also tried exercises using, like, a walking stick and putting, like, a blindfold over our eyes just to simulate people, with blindness. So, like, it's just really crazy how, our school really emphasizes, like, that we care about our patients, we wanna know exactly what they go through each day. So, I just really love that aspect about ASDO, like, they always try to incorporate some sort of interactive activity for us, at the same time just expressing, like, how empathetic we should be for our patients. So, that was something recently that we did, which was so cool, and then, in the afternoon that day, we got to go to this, recreational center with people who had disabilities, and we got to play, like, basketball with them too and, like, just
Wow.
play Frisbee. It was just so cool. So I just love how active they are in the community, and it's just awesome just interacting with them. They're not just patients, but they're also, like, you can like, they could be friends too, so it's just really cool.
Wow, that is really cool. So, did it make you kind of fear getting older? That would kind of scare me a little bit, like tremoring, trying to pour the water and man.
Yeah, it did, especially, like, we had different, like, simulation glasses, so it showed, like, what you would have if you had cataract,
Whew.
glaucoma. I was scared, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't imagine
Yeah,
how it
I
feels."
think I would much rather lose my hearing than my sight. That
Yeah.
is for sure. Ooh, that just
Yeah,
scares me even thinking about it.
yeah.
Well, walk us through. I know every school is different in terms of what residency programs are on campus, in terms of what clinical procedures that you may get to do at the school. Does
Mhm.
AT still have residency programs that kind of poach the endo cases or the heart extractions or the implant cases, or do you guys get to do those when you're in clinic?
Yeah, so at ASDO, we actually have, the orthodontic residency, and we also have the AEGD program, so it's basically like a GPR residency. Those are the only 2 residencies we have at our school. So, good thing for us, we get, like, all the other hard cases with, like, endo, pros, just everything. So we do have different clinics for that, and the students get to do those hard cases as well. So if there's, like, a really difficult root canal, you're gonna be the one doing it. There's, like, no one else who would do
There's
it
no one
besides
else to do it, so it's you.
no, it's just you. So you kinda just learn how to deal with the very difficult cases, which is a good thing, very good experience.
Yeah,
So
it's a good experience, but it's like, oh
yeah.
gosh, when you're doing it and you're trying to find like MB2 for the first time
Oh
and you're
my
like, this
gosh.
just sucks. Like, I hate this.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But then I'm sure you'll do great and you'll find it and then you'll find over and over and over again on other cases, you're like, man, I've grown so much.
Yeah.
So that is great. Well, we're going to kind of do a last couple questions about the school itself, and then we'll kind of dive into what social life is like
Yeah.
in the Mesa area. So, what is something that you wish that your school did differently, or maybe is improving upon and working to improve?
Something I wish the school did differently is we actually have basically exams. We have exams almost every week, but basically after, like, a break, for some reason, our school likes to put the exam, like, on the Monday we
Oh,
come back,
yeah.
and that's just it's just hard sometimes. Just because I feel like I can't relax as much as I want during the break because 'cause I'm thinking about that exam, but honestly, that's, like, probably one of the only things I could think of about the school that I would probably improve, just, like, the scheduling thing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think that's it. 'Cause I really enjoy, like, the clinical experience, and I feel like all the didactics are very effective in my learning. It's just the scheduling.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's almost something that every dental school does. Whoever does that as a teacher, I wish they would stop doing it because it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, come on, let me have the break. Let me have Memorial Weekend or whatever it may be. It's just
Yeah,
so funny how they do that.
I know.
All right, here's one last question on the school, and then we'll jump into the social life. And I love asking this question to all dental students because I think it's such an important thing to know. Do you have to pay for your own sim lab teeth and your burrs?
No, we don't. Thank goodness.
Woo!
Yeah, we don't, so that's really great. We have unlimited I guess they say we have unlimited teeth, so, like, I probably practice on, like, 300 teeth already, so
That's
I
great.
kept grabbing it. But yeah, no, we have a really great sim clinic faculty. They're very kind and they, um they are always, like, they're always just there for you and supportive, so anytime you need something, they'll get it, and the burrs, we don't have to pay for any of that, so that's
Oh,
great.
that is so good.
Thank
I
goodness.
I love my school. I went to VCU, but
Yeah.
that is one thing I wish they would just change. I mean, like, they'll give you, like, 5 to 10 teeth to
Oh my
practice
god.
on, and then but if you wanna practice on anything more, you gotta go buy teeth,
Is it, like, from
and
the vending machine?
well, we didn't have a vending machine, but we had, like, a little Henry Schein store downstairs, and I kid
Oh.
you not, I probably spent $1,000 to $2,000 a year
Oh my
just on
god.
teeth, burrs, Mylar strips, like the little sanding strips. I'm just
Yeah.
like, "This is so silly, like, just give it
Yeah,
to us, like, I'm paying a
yeah.
fortune anyway."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've burned so many teeth
You
with my hair.
burn so many with, like, your burr, like, you're cutting it dry?
In the beginning, I was like, "Oh my gosh, if I had to pay," yeah, I would also pay so much. That'd be crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the smell of burning teeth in
I
sim lab,
know.
oh my goodness,
And
it
they
just
always
bring
know who it is.
oh, they always know who it is, and it was always in our school, it was always the oral surgeon gunner kids that were wanting to do oral surgery that would go burn their hair or something when
Oh
they're, like,
my gosh.
putting teeth on, like, when we're, like, doing wax ups for dentures or, like, just it's just funny stuff.
Yeah.
Alright, well, tell us a little bit about the social life. Where do most of the students live? And I know everyone's in a different situation, whether they have a family, they're single, but where do most of the students live that are going to school there?
Yeah, so most of the students live, like, about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes away from the school. We live in an apartment, so our school actually doesn't offer on-campus housing. Most people live either apartment, they get a house with some roommates, or yeah, that's basically it. I got really lucky because our school basically set up a Facebook page for my class, so
Mhm.
then I just typed there, like, "Is anyone looking for a roommate?" So then I found my roommate through the Facebook group, and she ended up being my classmate, and yeah, we've been living together ever since, so I just got super lucky, and, um, it was a little risky because I was like, "Oh gosh, I don't know anyone, but I'm
Yeah.
just gonna trust that it goes well," and it did.
Well,
So,
good. I'm glad that worked out for you.
yeah. But yeah, so apartment and houses are very common, and there's a bunch of, like, um new housing apartments opening up around the area, so I feel like Arizona is really expanding, so there's a ton of options.
Now, do you feel like the housing is fairly affordable? You don't have to tell us what your rent is, but kind
Yeah.
of the medium price for rent, what is that typically going in the area if you have a pulse on that?
Yeah, so coming from California, the rent is definitely cheaper than California, so I was like, "Wow, it's just so much cheaper." I would say from what I heard, like, a one-bedroom can cost, like, maybe, like, 1,400 to, like, 1,800, and then for a two-bedroom apartment, it's, like, 2,200 to, like, maybe 2,800. So, yeah, that's, like, the range from what I know for apartments. But yeah, it just depends. A lot of these apartments offer, like, a gym, a pool, a dog park, so it really depends on, like, the amenities they have too.
Mhm. Well, that sounds great, and I'm sure it's much cheaper than what California is.
Yes,
California is great, but holy heavens, it's expensive. So,
it is.
all right. Well, do you feel like the school is in a relatively safe place? Like, I know one of the concerns a lot of the prenatal female students are kind of worried about is safety.
Yeah.
Am I safe walking to and from my car? Is the school in a safer area? Do you feel like you're safe at the school?
Yeah, definitely. It's it's a very, like, well-lit school too, I guess, because it's always sunny, we have security walking around everywhere, and something I found out actually is that if you are at school, like, studying at the library late at night, and if you're, like, afraid to walk to your car, you can call the security and they can, basically just walk you to your car or drive you to your car, which is really great. I didn't know that until recently. But yeah, I feel very safe at the school.
Okay. That I think that's an important thing that's another thing that oftentimes we don't think about until we're there and we're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I gotta I'm a little nervous," or whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Well, in terms of social things to do, I'm sure there's tons to do. What are things that a lot of your classmates and you enjoy doing in your downtime that you do have from studying?
Yeah, so I feel like our class is known as, like, the foodie class, we just always eat.
Oh,
So, me and my friends just love to go out and, just eat a ton of food, like, recently, during one of our lunch breaks, we got, all-you-can-eat sushi,
oh
and
man.
then yeah, on Saturdays, there's this local farmer's market that I always go to, which is really fun. They have a bunch of really cute dogs everywhere, so I mostly go for the dogs. Me and
So
my
you're
friends.
dog watching. You're
Yeah.
not people watching, you're dog watching.
Yeah. So we do that a lot. I know a lot of my friends I'm not a really big hiker, but a lot of my friends go hiking. There's a bunch of nature here in Arizona that's very beautiful. Um, People go golfing here. There if you like shopping, Scottsdale is very close, like 20 minutes away, and they have, like, a very nice mall that people go to. But yeah, that's mostly, like, what I do. I just yeah, I love food. And, I actually have a lot of times where I go back home to LA, which is not too far, like, my flight's only an hour, and it's pretty affordable, and, I try to go home, like, once a month to see my family, so it's nice that I get the time to do that as well.
Well, that's nice that you do have the time to do that. I think a lot
Yeah.
of times that time might not be there to make that trip, but since it's such an affordable little flight, that's great that you can do that.
Yeah. Oh, also, our school has a bunch I forgot to talk about this, but our school has a bunch of different clubs and organizations. You're probably familiar with ASDA, so
Yep.
that's, like, the biggest dental student organization at our school, and they offer so many events, like, every week they have a bunch of lunch and learns, and on weekends, they'll have different, like, social gatherings, which is really fun. Yeah, so a bunch of different clubs offer things to do on, like, weekends as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great thing if you're a student that is looking to get involved. Make sure you're looking at those clubs, whether it's ASDA, whether it's Spanish Club, whether it's, future leaders in dentistry, whatever the case may be. Make sure to go look at those clubs at pretty much any school. Every school has a certain set of clubs. So, all right, let's jump into the interview process. And I know this has taken you back a couple years,
Mhm.
but tell us, what was your interview process like when you were applying to dental school? And we can talk about AT Still, but also the other schools that you applied to as well and interviewed at.
Yeah, so I'll start off with ASDO. So this was actually, like, the most, basically the most complicated, I feel like, interview we had, like, it had the most components to it. So before our interview, we had to complete this online assessment called the Kira assessment, and
Hmm.
it's basically different questions, ethical scenarios, just asking what you would do in each situation, and then just some random questions about, like, your personality. So that was, like, an online assessment that you did before the interview, and then for the in-person interview, there were 3 components to that. There was MMI, which is multiple mini interviews, there was a group interview, and then there was a one-on-one interview, which was an open file interview, meaning that the interviewer had access to your application, so they were able to read that before. So, yeah, for a group interview, basically, I was, like, in a room with a few other interviewees, and they gave us a case, and we basically had to read the case and come up with a solution for this patient. So, we had to read it and then present it to the different faculty in the room. The MMIs were pretty intense at first because 'cause I've never done that before, but they basically had an actor in each room. There was 3 different scenarios, and each scenario had, like, just like a different case. So, like, one was, like it could be, like, a dental student or, like, a patient, and I'm not allowed to, like, talk about too much exactly what was in it, but it was also basically talking about, like, the ethical scenarios, like, as a dental student. And then the one-on-one interview, like I was saying, is open file, and something that was really unique about that was that they didn't really ask me anything about dentistry. It was kinda
Hmm.
just, like, about myself, about my personality, my family, and I really enjoyed that. We mostly talked about singing and, like, how much I love singing. So, that was really cool, and I really enjoyed that because it felt like they wanted to know me as a person, not just me on paper, and I just felt, like, welcome and seen by them, so it made me love the school a lot more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
AT still is known to have one of the more rigorous interview processes with the mini interviews and the small group interview. Kind of throw students for a little like whirlwind at first, and
Mhm.
then you kind of get a hold of it because a lot of those questions, like you said, are super ethical. Um, but that's good to know. So, how did that compare to other schools that you interviewed at? What were
Yeah.
some of the other schools that you interviewed at, and what were those experiences like for you?
Yeah, so I got 7 interview invites in total, and I actually interviewed at 6. So, a few of them, like, I think during that time it was, like, kind of end of COVID era, kind of. So some of them were online, and, I actually had one that was fully asynchronous, like, basically I wasn't even talking to a real person, it was just me answering questions in front of a webcam, and I didn't really love that 'cause you only had, like, a minute or 2 to answer the question, and sometimes I'd be, like, talking and it'd cut off, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know what I said," and it just moves on, so that was a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, some other interviews were just, like, one-on-one interviews, and, um, they also had one like, basically ethical scenarios as well. I had one that really pushed me to just, like, answer, like, exactly, like, explain my my reasoning behind the questions, I guess. So, like, one of the scenarios was, like, I come into a dental office, I'm the doctor, and I have an assistant, and then the patient makes my assistant cry, so what do I do? Like,
Oh
do
man.
yeah, and they asked me that as a pre-dent, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," so I had to explain step by step exactly what I would do in that case. So I think I said, I would first make sure that my assistant's okay, so I would want my assistant to be, like, okay to work there, and I would ask the patient what happened, just asking both sides what happens, and then come up with a solution from there. Um, so that's what I said. That was a little harder too, because it really asked you about, like, the ethics behind everything. And then some were also just very chill and just wanted to get to know my personality too. So it really depended on the school for these.
Yeah, the schools, it's really interesting how they take such different approaches to it.
Mhm.
And I do agree with you. The asynchronous is so hard. Like just having a Kira assessment and just going off of that, I feel
Yeah.
like is like almost impossible because you have zero like physical feedback at all on how you're doing.
Yeah.
So it does make it interesting. I think that's one of the interesting things with COVID that changed because that Kira assessment's really a fairly recent change that
Mhm.
a lot of schools have gone to. So when you went to a lot of these schools, and let's just talk about AT still for a moment, did they have like a financial session where they kind of talk to you about, hey, here's if you come here, here's how you're going to be able to finance potentially going to school?
Yeah, so they did. They had a few different workshops for us. Yeah, one was the financing one. They offered, like, different payment plans, different scholarship options, so they informed us on how we would pay for the school because it's very expensive since our school is also a private institution, it's very expensive.
Hmm.
So that was really nice to have, and not only did they have financial workshops for us, they also had different resource workshops for us. So if we ever want to do counseling, any sort of therapy, or if we need emotional support, any kind of support, they directed us to different basically different offices at the school, so that was really great to know as well.
So that's really important. I think that what you just mentioned there, some schools have this and more schools are trending that way, but having a mental health person there to kind of
Mhm.
help you through school, whether it's test anxiety, whether it's, you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or depressed, having the school provide a resource is a huge benefit. So that's another thing that when you're looking at different schools might be a good question to ask because not every school has it, and that is an aspect that could be really beneficial to you as you're going through school because school's rigorous. It's not
Yeah,
all sunshine and roses all the time.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's kind of wrap up with two final questions. Does your school have anything like a D.5 program? And a D.5 program, if you don't know, is like a program where they kind of accept students, but they're kind of on a trial period where they see how those students do in a couple didactic classes, and then they'll let them in the following year if they perform well.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know what that was, but I don't think our school offers that. That sounds really cool though.
Yeah. So I
Um,
was just curious because every school is so different in that, and some have it and some don't.
yeah, that would be really cool. I wish they had that.
Yeah. It's kind of unique. All right. Well, any final words of advice, Razzle, for those that are applying to dental school and how they should approach going through school?
Yeah, so I just have a couple words of advice. So, the first thing is don't compare yourself to others, especially when you're going through this dental school journey. I think that's the worst thing you can do. Just because when I was applying, I would just look on Student Doctor Network or Facebook groups, and I would just see people with like 30s on their DAT or like 4.0s, and I'm like, I'm nowhere near that. And I just felt like I had to be, like, a perfect student to get into dental school, but that's definitely not true, and you can definitely do it if you just keep going and you meet all the requirements and prerequisites, just keep going and keep trying because you can eventually do it. And also, um, for applying, definitely apply early since dental schools go on a rolling admissions basis, meaning that they review applications as they are submitted. So I think the earlier you submit your application, the sooner you get to have like an early interview. So yeah, I would say that. And yeah, if you ever have any questions at all, feel free to message me on Instagram or my email too. So yeah,
Awesome. Well, excellent advice, Razzle. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast once again.
thank you.
You bet. Well, that is it for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast, and we will see you next time. That's all for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey into dentistry. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more expert advice, inside tips, and engaging discussions. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. It would mean the world to us. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and remember, your dental dreams are closer than you think. Thanks for tuning in to the Dental School Guide podcast.